Hi, it's Ursula from ursula-smith.com, and today I'm here with a jewelry, I don't know if you could call it a tip, but let's call it a tip and it's probably more for you beginner jewelers out there like me. So one of the things that I've always hated to do is saw. I'm not very good at it. And I probably own literally every saw out there. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but I own a lot of saws because every time I read about one, I'm like, oh, that will magically change my sawing ability for the better. And then I'm always sadly disappointed. So I don't even know why I got this bench pen, so instead of buying a new saw, I bought a new bench pen. This was the one that I used before, so it's white kind of plastic material, very, very hard. It's attached into a bench pin holder that is slid over the top of a GRS mounting plate. And there are a million videos and write-ups on the GRS system, but basically it allows you to take things on and off very easily. So I had this. I liked it. It was whatever. It was a bench pin. It holds your metal, as you saw. You could drill into it. It was nice and white until I brought Sharpie marker over the top of it. But I never really absolutely loved it. The edges are sharp, and I mean, I could have filed them, but I never did. And really, really, really thick. So when I'm trying to hold metal down, my hand would hurt, and I have arthritis in my thumb anyway from years of computer work. So, I don't know. I must have read something and saw this bench pin and decided I'm going to try that. It's much thinner, and it's much, it's made out of I think it's steel. I don't think it's aluminum, but it just looked like it would be a little bit stiffer. This one also moved around a little bit, and so I wasn't crazy about that. So I was thinking this would be stiffer, and I would like it better. And oh my God, I was right. I mean, I love this thing. So just with the new bench pin, I definitely saw it better. It didn't move around as much. But then the other thing that I did, so I do feel like the stiffer, metal bench pin, even though it's thinner, it was easier to hold things, but it also just made my sawing easier. So because I already had one GRS mounting plate and I wanted another one, I was looking for those. And there's this other thing by New Concepts. Oh, so this one is by New Concepts. But when I was looking for the mounting plate or mounting bracket, they had this adapter that lets you rotate whatever you're putting on it. And so I had been reading about if you cut your own pattern plates, or not pattern plates. God, couldn't think of it. Pancake dies. So they're the things that cut metal. I had already tried to do one, and I was reading, I don't know, whatever. I ended up in some description of trying to saw pancake dies, and a bunch of people were saying that they should be cut on an angle. So when I looked at the adapter, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should be doing that. So I ended up deciding to do the adapter. And then when I got it and I was installing the bench pin, I was trying to cut little things. So, like something that tiny. This little brass thing. And I wanted to cut right to the edge, but then I was thinking, oh, well, that's solder. So I thought if I put this on an angle as I'm sawing, maybe I'd have enough of a lip. I'm not sure this is going to work, but this is my thinking. that I could solder even if I cut right to the pattern. So I put it on the angle, and I'm not sure that's going to work, but the side effect of cutting on the angle is the dust from sawing, which is like another thing that I absolutely could not stand. It used to get, on the design as you're sawing and obliterate whatever line you were trying to follow. Well, on the bench pin on the angle, it would just kind of float away from the piece that you're sawing. So instead of stopping every 3 seconds to like brush the dust away, I barely had to do that. And so for that reason alone, that piece is worth its weight in gold. So if you're struggling with that, I mean, I don't know that you necessarily need the bench pin as well, although, like I said, I really do love it. You might be able to get away with just getting the rotating adapter so that, you could put your bench pin on an angle and have the dust float away rather than having to brush it or blow it. So the other thing with this bench pin is this piece here, this little brass piece. I had kind of like excess material. And so one of the things, this whole thing started because I was looking for a clamping system, which I still do not own. I was just trying to figure out which one I want, especially when I'm doing these teeny tiny things to hold the pieces down. This thinner bench pin actually was much less painful trying to hold things down, and it didn't move around, so it just felt easier to hold things down. So I am still going to get a clamping system, but in the meanwhile, this actually has been helping. But what I did was this bar here, it's kind of mounted on the under part of the bench pin. It's supposed to be set up so that you could file and saw things on angles based on, which holes you screw it into. But what I found was I could slide the excess material from the piece I was sawing underneath this and then screw it down, and it was kind of a poor man's clamp. And so it worked well, especially for just this. I was trying to do this straight part here, or straight-ish part. And then when I got to the top, I kind of unscrewed and then moved it and did this part. And so it actually did help. I mean, I don't know that I would do that all the time, but on that piece, it worked well. So I really love this new Concepts bench pin. I'm really glad I got it. And so the only other thing that I will mention kind of as a side note is the last thing I was trying to do was this piece. Oh my God, I love this image. It's from Potter Press, Maiden of the Mist. And I'm pretty sure this was 16 gauge copper, so a little bit thick. And when I went to saw her, I mean, it's not super detailed, and it's not super tiny, so I shouldn't have had that much of a problem. But I went from sawing these to her, and almost immediately, I pushed a little bit hard, and I do keep my saw blades in my saw very tight. And so, I moved the wrong way, snap, broke my blade. I did that 4 more times, and I was like, what is going on? It's not that hard. I mean, I know I'm not the greatest sawer, but that was just ridiculous. So when I went to finally get the 5th, I mean, it's sad that it took me that long, but I went to get a new saw blade, and I use the Pepe Tools saw blades. Generally, I like them. I generally don't break that many in a row. But one of the things I like about them is they list the, I don't know if I guess, gauge of the blade, but it also tells you, what thickness of metal you should be using it with. So I was using this one for thin metal. And I mean, again, can't believe it took me that long to realize it, but when I grabbed the 1/0 for thicker metal, so it's not even for 16, I could have gone a little bit thicker, but this is what I had. So as soon as I switched to that, I ended up doing the whole, I mean, literally, I had gotten to about, like there and was breaking blade, maybe a little bit longer. But as soon as I switched blades, I was able to, do the whole thing with no problem. So again, if you're a beginner, check if your blades don't have it on the packaging. There are things online, because that's what I used to do before the Pepe. Check what gauge the blade is meant for, and you'll hopefully have a lot better luck with your sawing. So hope this has been helpful. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.